Hi, I'm Ronnie Busby. You're looking at What's Up TV. Behind me is the Antiki, a motorless raft that sailed over 3,000 miles from the Canary Islands to St. Martin with a crew of 4. The voyage started on January 30th of this year. That and more coming up on What's Up TV. It was an epic ending to a 2,600-mile journey that 4 adventurers took on a 43 feet by 20-foot raft from La Gomera, Canary Island to Simpson Bay, St. Martin. The Antiki, captained by Antony Smith, left the Canary Island on January 30th, 2011 and arrived in St. Martin on April 6th, 2011 to a large crowd welcoming with cheers from the banks of the lagoon, on the deck of the yacht club, and with blaring horns from the yachts nearby.
What a trip. Thank you, St. Martin.
Yes, thank you, St. Martin.
Thank you for the warm welcome. We really appreciate it.
It's been fantastic.
It's been a great welcome, guys.
Absolutely unbelievable.
I just can't believe it.
The captain and crew braved the dangerous Atlantic Ocean for 10 weeks on this simple sail-powered raft. Captain Antony Smith is 85 years old and no stranger to adventure. He was a science correspondent for the BBC. He wrote over 30 books and flew a gas balloon over East Africa and the Swiss Alps. Captain Smith, who visited over 70 countries in his lifetime, recruited his crew by placing an advert in the Daily Telegraph that read, "Fancy rafting across the Atlantic. Famous traveler requires 3 crew. Must be serious adventurers only."
Originally I said must be old age pensioners, which in British terms means over 65. And then everybody said, what a great idea, just having old age doing something instead of just pruning the roses. And then people came along and said, but you're all old, you all fail. I said the whole point was that we wanted to show that old people could still got some get up and go. It isn't good enough just going out and going to the supermarket, say on a Tuesday because there's less crowd there. No, that's so awful. And friends of mine who perhaps run a company 50,000 people strong were saying, oh, we're busier now than ever before. Jane and I don't know which way to turn. It's so busy. We got the coffee morning on Wednesday, and as I say, the supermarket on Tuesday. And I felt that's awful. Why are they giving up life just because they've got a fat pension coming into the bank every time? I don't have a fat pension. I have to go on. And a raft seemed a very nice, easy, gentle thing to do for, well, let's face it, for an elderly person. So next time when I picked it up, the original thing having been Scotch for lack of sponsorship, then I took people who weren't old. They're 56, 57, 61, and me, who's a little bit older, 85, and so it's not an old person's yacht.
57-year-old crew member David Hildred, a civil engineer and sailing master, was always fascinated by Captain Antony Smith adventures.
When I was 13, I bought a book by an author called Antony Smith. Never heard of him, but I was captivated by the cover of the book, which showed a gas balloon flying over Africa, and I thought at 13, sounds adventurous, sounds exciting. I read the book, thought, great, want to know more about this author. I read books about him travelling down the length of Africa and up the length of Africa and finding rare fish in Persia, etc., etc., etc. I followed his career for many years and eventually decided I wanted to get in touch with him. So I wrote to him, met him, and the stupid man invited me on the raft.
Crew member Dr. Anthony Bainbridge is a rural doctor from Alberta, Canada.
Well, actually it starts earlier than that. It starts when I was 7, because I went to school with him from the age of 7. So we've been friends for 50 years.
Crew member John Russell is a lawyer from Strond.
So many friends say to me, you're completely mad. They said, completely crazy. This is a stupid thing to do. And I thought, well, you know, really, am I gonna die on this? This is a raft that has never had any sea trials. It's you know, it could break up in the middle of the sea, a long way from anywhere. So probably the night before was the time that I did a lot of soul searching, But once we were underway, it was just fantastic.
You're watching What's Up TV. I'm aboard the Antiki, the raft that sailed 3,000 miles from the Canary Islands to St. Martin. We'll be right back on What's Up TV.